Everybody, welcome to Believe in Bills. I am Sal Majorana from the Democrat and Chronicle. My co-partner, my co-pilot Adam Benini has the day off, so I'm flying solo. And I've got two guests here today from NFL Films. I've got Pat Harris and I've got Kaley Campen, and they are the people that are bringing you Hard Knocks. We are 4 episodes in. The last episode will air on Tuesday night at 9 o'clock. Guys, first of all, welcome in. Thanks for joining me.
Thanks, Sal.
Yeah, thanks for having us.
I've already talked to Pat. I did a whole big story on him, so we're just going to be covering old ground. But Kaley, I haven't talked to Kaley yet, so I'll be interested to get her viewpoints too on what the experience has been in Buffalo. So we'll start because I'm assuming you guys have got to be pretty close to the end of filming. The Bills basically have the weekend off. I'm guessing you may be done filming. Is that correct?
We've got one more shoot. What we're gonna do? We got one more tomorrow. We're finalizing everything with Dion Dawkins' car snow down at Highmark in the parking lot tomorrow. So that'll kind of be our last hurrah before we wrap it all up here.
Okay, so that's good. A little bit of a teaser for what we're going to see on Tuesday night. Give me, Pat, why don't you give me, because you and I have talked about this a month ago, but now that we're at the end of it, I talked to you at the very beginning. Why don't you kind of recap for me, for you especially, being a kid from Penfield outside of Rochester here, what it was like to be able to do Hard Knocks with your hometown team?
It kind of started off really cool is like the easiest way to say it, and it just kind of kept getting better. Just cool little moments would pop up. It felt surreal, and I think especially being at Fisher, it started to settle in a little bit as time went on. And then I think once we went to Buffalo, I mean, we were set up in the press box. Like that was our home base for the entire Hard Knocks crew. So just being able to turn my desk and just look out at the field was pretty awesome. That last day we went out and just like threw passes on the field. Like that was, I mean, a pretty incredible moment. So it's had its ups and downs, just a normal shoot, a normal, being here for 6 weeks has its stresses and everything, like anything else. But I think at the end of the day, it was exactly what I could have hoped for and more. Pretty incredible to like develop personal relationships with Brandon Beane, Sean McDermott, getting to do shoots with Josh Allen like that. That was pretty incredible for me.
And we had talked to, being from Penfield, you had gone to training camp when you were a younger person, high school. I mean, were you kind of sad to leave the Fisher part behind and have to go back to the stadium because you were in your hometown? It must have been a really fun thing for you to be there.
No, I think we've been able to have a little perspective of like, it was a pretty cool experience just being on a college campus. And I think our crew has said it, like, we had a fun routine. Like it was just kind of unique being there. So especially because we've done so many Hard Knocks that sometimes they kind of blend together, but that was one that stood out just because it was a different atmosphere. So once I think we moved to Buffalo, it just it changed a little bit for everybody, not a good or bad. It just kind of changed from the routine, but it definitely was an incredible experience and a lot of fun for me. And I think our crew being at Fisher and in Rochester, I know everybody loved it.
So Kaley, how many Hard Knocks have you been involved with now?
So this summer was my 5th training camp Hard Knocks. And then going into this season will be my 3rd of doing in-season Hard Knocks. So kind of take it on as a year-round thing now.
So was this your first time on a college campus for a training camp, or had you had one previous to this?
It was. My very first Hard Knocks was with the Cowboys, and they do go away for camp in Oxnard, but their setup is still out like a hotel feel, so it wasn't your true in the dorms on a college campus. So this was my first one. And to echo what Pat said, we talked about it at dinner last night. I think it was one of our favorite parts of just getting that old school college campus feel. Everyone was amazing up there, and it was just something different that I think, our whole crew really enjoyed, and I personally did as well.
Now, you guys all stayed at Fisher, right? You were in the dorms, or Pat? Did you go home to your family, or did you stay in the dorms, or what was there, a hotel? Where were you guys?
We were over in the courtyard at Penfield.
Oh, you cheaters! Then you weren't in there you weren't in the dorm rooms with those guys, were you?
Oh, I would have been very curious if our crew, how they would have handled that. They loved their Marriott points. Yeah. They loved part of a perk of the gig of being away for so much, but. I think that would have been a whole different experience for everybody. But I think it would have been fun. It would have been kind of like the Bills. Like we're already hanging out with each other all the time. It probably would have been a little easier to say. Usually we're leaving camp and going to dinner in our T-shirts if people saw us around town, just because it's 7:30, 8 o'clock. So it probably wouldn't have been that much different routine wise than what we already were doing.
Kaley, what was your experience with the players, with this group of players? I mean, do you have any stories you could share or just insights? I mean, you've done several teams now. What did you come away thinking of how the Bills were as a subject for Hard Knocks?
Yeah, I think every team is so unique and different. We heard a lot going in that the Bills culture was different, and I was excited to kind of get a front up close personal look at why that culture was different. And it definitely is. I mean, these players love being together. They truly are friends and kind of just treat each other like family. They all talked a lot about how much they loved being in the dorms together. I think a fun one, we went to Connor McGovern's house quickly after camp broke up at St. John Fisher. When they got back to Buffalo, he had a big pizza party, and it was O-linemen, it was quarterbacks, tight ends, some of the defensive guys who are there. This is their first week home where they could technically take a break from each other, and yet half the team was there just to hang out on a random night when they had the day off, which was pretty fun to see. So that's I think cool. They're a great group.
That's good. As far as the editorial content, Pat, I mean, you and I had talked that, the Bills, and it felt like so far in the 4 episodes we've watched, at least me personally, it does feel like they have had some control over what's being put out there. What was that process like for you guys? And have you been, I'm not going to say disappointed, but do you wish they could have maybe been a little bit, lighter on some of the editorial control that appears to be happening in the show?
I don't think so. I think this is kind of it was uncharted grounds for us, being with a team that is as good as the Bills are, as close as they are to a playoff run and a Super Bowl run. So I think we kind of knew that was going to come with, they were more buttoned up on a lot of things. There wasn't the usual drama in camp. They really hit the ground running with practice. So right off the bat, we kind of knew, hey, there is no transition period from the lead into camp. They were ready to roll. So there wasn't the normal drama that we usually get. That's just being honest, I think. And then the editorial stuff, it's just their attention to detail and making sure that they keep things buttoned up. That's been kind of part of the Bills culture, and that's something we knew coming in. We accepted. I think we tried to adjust the show in such a way that you kind of start to fall in love with players a little bit more and just find different creative ways to say, hey, we are telling the story of the Bills. It is genuine. We're not manufacturing anything, but I kind of expected it coming in, and I haven't been disappointed in any way. And I hope that I think the viewer still gets to see kind of the genuine Buffalo Bills for who they are.
Kaley, Pat and I had talked again back at Fisher that, I asked him a question about how much do you guys actually plot out before, what your storylines are going to be. And he said there's some of it you have to do, but a lot of it ends up being organic. Can you give me an example of something that really all of a sudden popped and you guys knew that had to be a storyline you had to follow?
Yeah, no, I mean, it happens every year. I can think of a couple examples. I think the big one here, Jimmy Charlo, he came to camp halfway through, showed up. We all saw him that first game and we were like, who the heck is that guy? We heard McDermott calling him out in that team meeting you guys got to see. And I think that's somebody that, again, wasn't on the roster when we first got here, but instantly, West Point, we saw him out on the practice field that first or second practice. He was the last one out there, and we knew that was a story that, people needed to hear and he deserved to be told. So perfect example of him.
Perfect. So last week, so give me some insight here. So last week we saw him in the field house at some point in the evening talking to his father. What time was that? What time were you guys still filming something like that for that episode?
I think that was around 8:30, 9 o'clock in that window.
Wow.
So they'd been done maybe 5:30. So he had a little dinner, and then he was just working. Like, he was doing stuff in the training room. He was just doing stuff in the meeting rooms. Like, he was just kind of said, it was true that he was just in a hotel by himself. So it's like, why not keep working? I think he definitely had plenty of time to catch up, or plenty of things to catch up on. So that was really our thing of just, hey, let us just follow you around and just see what your night looks like. And truth be told, he was still there once we left. He just kind of stayed until it was dark and got a ride home, and that was that.
So when we see them in the Tampa Bay game, and you guys focused on his parents briefly, take me through, how does that get set up? Because all of a sudden, this guy's parents are showing up. How do you guys even make that happen to get them on camera?
Yeah, I mean, we all talk as directors. I think every game we try to look for, whose family's going, what story are we telling this week. It's always unique to see the mom, the dad, the spouse, the kids, whoever's there to cheer them on. And once he did the FaceTime with his dad and they had such a, genuine conversation, one of our directors, Emily, threw out the idea of, hey, can we see about bringing his dad here? And Jimmy was really appreciative of it. And so, Hard Knocks loves to be able to do stuff like that. And we got him and his dad and his stepmom flights to come down there and tickets to the game, and, made sure that they got to see him down on the field pregame. So
you guys set that up. Yeah, because we're thinking like, oh, they just jumped on a plane. And his father, I think it's said of the episode, he hadn't flown in like 25 years or something. Was that something crazy, right?
That is accurate, and I think it was definitely like a little, the transition period for teaching him like what modern day airport travel looks like, stuff that we kind of take for granted. But I think we learned a lot of times we'll ask to see what players' families already coming down. I think this was a unique year that their away schedule is kind of rough with just being in Chicago and then that last game being in Tampa, being so far away. So especially for a guy like Jimmy being he's so new and new to the game, hasn't earned that NFL money, if you will. I think we always love to help out as best we can, and it made him happy, made for good TV, so it was kind of a win for everybody.
Awesome. Real quick, I got to shout out the sponsor here. We are presented by FanDuel. Obviously, FanDuel is one of the top betting sites in the world right now. Opening night, Baltimore Ravens coming to Highmark Stadium. FanDuel has the Bills as a 1.5 point favorite, which anybody who bets knows that that's kind of a pick'em game. So FanDuel is your place if you want to get a bet down on the Bills, Ravens, or any other sporting event out there. All right. So guys, this past episode, you focused on a lot of guys who wound up getting cut, obviously. I mean, the only guy I think that was really featured that made the team ultimately was Jamarcus Ingram. What was that by design to get some guys that you had a sense were probably going to be released, get them an opportunity to get out there? Or is that just random luck that's how it happened? How did that all play out? Pat, why don't you give me that info if you could?
Yeah, it's all random luck, really. Like KJ was somebody who was on our radar. He was kind of appeared in episodes 1 and 2, and we kind of knew he was, fighting for a roster spot. Very early in camp, it was figuring out what his role was going to be. So he was somebody that was already kind of like an intro. And Zach Davidson was one. We had done a bunch of stuff with him, and then just one of those where the way the episodes unfold, sometimes it's really hard to do like a full character pod. So we had already had a bunch of stuff that we'd done with Zach. And it just so worked out that episode 4 was a good time. We were looking for content. We had done that mountain biking shoot with him previously. So that was, hey, this is an incredible shoot. It was one of our probably more beautiful shoot. I know it was very highly received back in NFL Films when they watched it. So that was one that we really worked with Zach, and he was a great person. We wanted to feature. And it just kind of just happens like that. Like Jimmy, we knew he just appeared, and we just wanted to keep running with that story. So it really is all luck in a way. We definitely don't go in there thinking we want to only feature guys that are cut or guys that are only featured on the practice squad. It just kind of happens that, those roster bubbles, you never really know. And I think even the Bills really don't know what was going to unfold. So, yeah, we definitely know who's fighting for a spot or not. But after that, it just kind of up to chance.
Okay. Kaley, I want to ask you too, since we mentioned the Zach Davidson thing, and then the Deanne Dawkins car thing that we saw early in the episode, one of the earliest episodes. How long does a shoot like that take? Like, I mean, you go film practice. Practice is an hour and a half or 2 hours, and that's where your film opportunity is. For something like, for instance, the Zach Davidson biking tour there, what goes into something like that? Because that seems like that's a lot more involved than just shooting a practice.
It definitely is. You nailed it. I mean, the mountain biking was definitely something different we haven't done before. So something like that, I connected with Zach. I found out a park that he liked to bike at. I went with a few of our crew members. We actually scouted the park, found trails that we thought we could accomplish some really beautiful shots at. We brought our drone operator out there. He got clearance ahead of time. So we really planned out with a couple camera crews and a drone exactly how we wanted to execute it. And then we used Zach's off day. He was very gracious with his time. I'd say that one's on the longer end. We spent a couple hours with him doing a couple different trails, giving him some breaks and downtime. But somebody like that's his hobby. That's what he loves to do on the off day. So he was also very willing to, you want me to go again? I should try to get higher on this jump or that jump. He had a lot of fun with it. So a couple hours is what we filmed with him, but we definitely planned, everything out a couple days in advance. So that way it, executed well.
Do you guys enjoy that stuff more than the football stuff? Is that the stuff that maybe makes these episodes what they are, at least for you from a producer standpoint?
That's a tough one because I think we're both football junkies, so we love some of the football stuff. But it is, and I don't know, I'll speak for myself. I think it's refreshing on the off days to get to do something different. I'm sure Pat probably feels similar.
No, I love it. Really gives kind of our operators, like they are the best at what they do filming football, but it lets them kind of flex their creative muscles and see. I'm always impressed with what they come up with. Like that interview with Zach was one of my favorite frames, and it was our DP Hannah Epstein that said, I want to just try something crazy, and she had a really wide lens and put the bike so it was at the foreground, so you have the wheel and you have Zach sitting there, and it's just those little creative details that I think football happens. You can't control it a lot of times. You're just documenting what is unfolding. So those instances, I think we're able to control. Hey, Zach, try going over the ramp like this, or hey, sit here like that, and it really kind of lets those creative muscles and their creative brains kind of be flexed a little bit, and it makes for really awesome TV, I think.
What would you say was the most challenging aspect of this particular Hard Knocks? I'm sure by now for you guys, it's all the same, the same type of structure and process, but was there anything that stood out that was maybe more challenging during the Bills opportunity here?
I think it was finding the right balance of Josh Content. He is obviously one of the biggest names in football, biggest names on the Bills. So he's I think a fascinating person. Any content he does, even talking about the Bills content team, anytime they put something out that is Josh centric, it does numbers. So you knew that people wanted to see him. They wanted to learn more about him. It's just finding that balance. It says it's not all about him, but we want to make sure we're showing different layers and different levels of Josh. So it was just finding that right balance. And I really think we did. Episode 1 featured him a lot. It let people get to know him. And then you just kind of learn little pieces here and there as the episodes unfolded. And even episode 5, you'll see another layer coming up. But it was just finding that right balance. And I feel like we did, but it was definitely talked about and thought about a lot coming in.
Yeah, because I'll say I know the first episode he was heavily featured. I thought there would be more of Josh Allen just because of who he is, who he just married. And I'll tell you what, we tried to get him to talk a little bit about the wedding back in the spring. Like after the wedding, they came back to whatever it was, OTAs, I guess, and he was like really tight-lipped. He didn't want to share any of the details. And I thought that maybe with you guys, he might be a little like you guys might press him on it, and maybe he would offer something up. Did that even come up, or did he pretty much put the kibosh on it?
He didn't put the kibosh. I think you just kind of get the vibe talking to him that he's a private person. And I think the more we talked with people around the Bills, Haley aside, I think even with his family and his parents, he's very private. So you just kind of learn to respect that. I think that's that NFL partnership where, look, we're not trying to press you to do something you're not comfortable with. If you want to talk about it, great. It's really not what we're looking to do to make him uncomfortable and force him to really do anything. So we just kind of got that vibe and went with it.
Okay. Kaley, what are we looking? I mean, I don't want you to blow the whole episode here, but what can we expect to see maybe in the finale? Because I know Bills fans have really enjoyed this. I mean, this is a look inside the team that they never get. I get a little bit more than the fans do, but I don't get the level that your guys have gotten so far. What are we thinking about or looking at for this final episode that maybe we can tease some fans on?
Yeah, I mean, I think you're going to get to see, training camp kind of tie a bow on it with some of those last practices. I mean, they brought back two, Bills, I think, fan favorites in Jordan Poyer and Jalen Phillips. So we got to kind of show some stuff with them. We put a clip out with Jordan Poyer to tease a little bit. So we were able to get with Jordan Poyer when he first got to Buffalo that night before he reported to the facility. So you kind of get to see an inside look at, I think, again, one of those fan favorites people should be excited to have back here.
So in closing, good experience for you guys. I mean, was it what you thought it was going to be, Pat, doing your hometown team?
It was. It really was. I feel like I have a good enough pulse just from being a fan, watching the games, reading all the stuff you guys are putting out of who the team is, what their culture is about. But I had a good conversation with Brandon Beane, I think, after we did an interview with him. And I truly was grateful for the opportunity. I think they opened me with open arms, or welcomed me with open arms. And I think just getting to kind of live that dream that young Pat, like I said, when we spoke, would have, died knowing that I had that chance to. So it lived up to all my expectations. It had its challenges. Obviously, I want them to win a Super Bowl as much as anyone. So I was fully prepared for that, and knew that, it comes with some restrictions in a way, and they're just very buttoned up with what's going to be out. But it was very cool to be on the practice field, see how they operate, see the attention to detail that they have in really everything they do. So it really was an awesome experience, and I'm definitely probably been more of a Bills fan than I was coming in.
So we know he's a Bills fan. Who are you a fan of, Kaley?
Well, I keep joking with Pat that I'm all in, bought in on the Bills now.
Okay.
I might say that every year after we spent the summer with the team, but I do really love the team. And I think, like Pat said, I mean, this was probably the best team we've ever gotten to feature on Hard Knocks, with a team that's made the playoffs, MVP quarterback. So just to be around a team they are as good as they are, I think was a privilege for anyone who works in football. And just to be able to be up close with them and see, how great of a coach Sean McDermott is. And I think why everything clicks with his leadership was one of my favorite parts.
So I don't know if we know what's next, but can you tell us what's next? Is it what's the next team? What's the in-season team? Has that been announced? Can we break news here, or is that just not ready to be announced yet?
It is already announced, though. In-season Hard Knocks
Okay.
is NFC East. Yes, so that is.
Oh, you're doing the whole division. Okay.
Yes. Yep. So that we did AFC North last year. That was our first time doing the entire division for in-season. So giving the NFC some love this year and jumping over to that group.
Okay. So that's got to be a massive undertaking. If you said you had about 35 or 36 people on this crew, does the crew grow exponentially because you're covering 4 teams, or how does that work?
It's not as big, not a big of a footprint as in season. I don't even know if we'd have that many bodies all throughout NFL Films and in the freelance world. So it's smaller crews. We start.
It's smaller crews.
Yeah. So it'll be.
Okay.
Kaley will be out with the Giants this year,
Yes.
so she can shed some light on that.
Yeah, we kind of break into 4 pods, so you have to think, we are making one movie, but with 4 teams in 4 places. So you actually need less from each team because, that runtime is still the same. So we kind of create little pods with each team and keep it consistent there. And we have, our army out in the field, and then our whole army back in the office, and our editors and showrunners back home have their work cut out for them in the season as much as anybody on that show as well.
Awesome. Well, hey guys, I want to thank you really much. Friday afternoon on Labor Day weekend to come in here and do a podcast with me. I really appreciate it. Pat Harris and Kaley Campen, NFL Films producers on Hard Knocks in Buffalo. The final episode airs Tuesday night at 9 p.m. on HBO. I've really enjoyed it, guys. Like I said, I mean, I've covered the team longer than anybody over there. I've been there for more than 40 years. So I've got a pretty good feel on the inside, but you guys showed us and me some things behind the scenes that we don't get to see. So we really appreciate it. And thank you for your diligence and for putting out a show that Bills fans have really enjoyed.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Sal. I appreciate that.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
All right, guys, that'll do it. That's a wrap for Believe in Bills. I am Sal Majorana. We'll be back sometime next week. Not sure what our schedule is going to be. Probably Wednesday, Friday, and then live after the Bills-Ravens game on Sunday. So we hope you join us at that point or at those points. Until then, have a great Labor Day weekend. And again, thanks to Pat and Kaley for joining us. This has been Believe in Bills.